Sure.
Hey everybody,
What up, Gomertrons?
new name, new podcast. I'm gonna talk about it. All right, I'm ready.
New name, who dis?
Who new name? Who dis?
That's one of my favorite jokes that my friend Brad does. Is like whenever you text him, he'll be like, "New number, who dis?"
No matter what,
Or new no, he say new phone, who
new
dis?
phone. Who dis? Right.
Yeah, always funny. Always slightly not quite sure how to like respond to that. I'm like, haha, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it.
New
All right,
phone,
Gene,
who
I'm
dis?
ready.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, click. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Slight delay, but
Yeah, we'll be fine. You're listening to Overcoming Runner's Block, a podcast about two regular guys chasing big goals, facing their excuses and barriers, and inviting a nation along for the run. This is our rebrand premiere episode from Gomer to Overcomer for April 15th, 2022.
welcome everybody to this, the first episode of Overcoming Runner's Block. This is Anthony speaking, one of those two aforementioned Gomers, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, with my friend Steven, all the way out in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Hey, dude.
Hey man, pumped about this.
New name, who dis?
New phone, who dis? Classic joke. I mean that
Well,
goes all the way
classic,
back
I
to
guess.
yeah.
Like, since the people were getting new phone days.
Right. Well, Seinfeld actually does it.
Really?
Like George calls it's a classic trope in Seinfeld.
Okay.
Like Jerry in need of something real
Mm-hmm.
bad, and
Yeah.
Jerry will let him go through a whole thing and be like, "Who is this?" You know what I mean?
I guess so.
Jerry,
You're right.
bang bang, new phone, who dis?
The 90s version of new phone, who dis? But
Uh
we
huh.
do have a new name,
Yep.
Overcoming Runner's Block. We talked about that briefly in our last episode. We're going to kind of focus on that in this episode,
Yeah.
just to let people know how that's affected us so far in our running, in our podcasting, in our lives. Um, that's basically what this episode is going to be. It also is nice with the new name change that we can do episodes like this that aren't just tied to a particular runner's block like we've been doing for the past year or so.
Yeah. And I think I want to get into how, like, I texted you a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week ago or so, that this has really done some really cool things for like my identity,
Right.
like what I've thought of myself as. And I don't know, I'm pretty pumped to talk about adding the verb of overcoming
Right.
to what we do, and then kind of how that plays into I don't know, identity a little bit. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yep. I mean, it's crazy what one word can do.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
think that we talked a little bit about this last time and a lot on the state of the podcast episode on our bonus disc, patreon.com/2gomers.
Yep.
We also just finished recording 90 minutes about movie trains.
You're gonna want to check that one out. That one
it's
was
a
so
can't
fun.
miss.
It is a can't miss. It is what it's like to be best friends with a Enneagram 7. So
Mm-hmm.
Steven's the 7, I'm the 4. And yeah, it's really fun
I
and
put
silly and
probably
great.
way too much work into it. So if you
Right.
like the podcast and think, oh, they do a lot of work on this, we put a lot of work on that. And if you want to pay us for it, you can go to patreon.com/2gomers and help us out.
That'd be great. That was your either Mac and Me or Perfect Cracker
Mm-hmm.
or what was the other episode that I went? Oh yeah,
The
Night They
night they
Saved.
saved. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
All that stuff, you can find all of those things that maybe make no sense. Do the words we just said make any sense?
What is the through line? The through line is our friendship
Right.
and things that we like, right?
There may be people that are brand new to the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We obviously we have the new art. Thank you, Eric. We have the new name, Overcoming Runner's Block. Maybe this is popping up in people's feeds and they're like, what is this? Um,
Yep.
and why are they talking about Mac and Me and Perfect Movie Trains right at the top? Oh, also
Hmm.
Seinfeld. That's kind of what this is, right? This is not a
Yeah.
running podcast like many other running podcasts.
Well, what do you do when you run? You usually run. Well, a lot of people run alone. We run
Mm-hmm.
alone,
Yeah.
but it is something social,
Right.
and I think actually many people have told us that we're like their running buddies.
Yeah.
Like
Definitely.
we're the running buddies that won't hold you back. We're the
Mm-hmm.
running buddies that will push you forward, help you to overcome runner's block.
Yep.
Bring us along with, listen along.
We won't slow you down unless you're running with us in person. Then we will.
Right, that's the only time that will slow you down is if you run with us. Like,
Right. So we are the two Gomers, Stephen and Anthony. I'm Stephen.
mm-hmm,
Gomer 2, that's Anthony.
mm-hmm,
Gomer 1. We've
mm-hmm,
been podcasting for almost 14 years now.
crazy.
This podcast has gone through a lot of iterations. This is just our latest one, Overcoming Runner's Block. The hook has always been running. We're two regular guys trying to do this, figure this out. But
Yep.
I think what keeps people here are the tangents, the friendship, the Gomerness of it all.
Yeah. I mean, the Venn diagram is friendship,
Mm-hmm.
running,
Mm-hmm.
80s,
Yep.
90s,
80s,
movies,
90s.
pop,
Yep.
food.
Food and drink. Yep. That might be it.
I mean, faith, obviously, dude. Come
Right.
on.
Okay. There we go. Yep. Yeah. So, and probably 20 other random things we're going to talk about that don't fit into any of
Right.
those circles at this point.
Yes. Oh, and music. We didn't talk about music.
Oh yeah.
Huge in the Venn diagram.
We're looking forward to more songs to run to
Oh
as
man, yeah.
we
We
as we
haven't done
go
that in a long
into
time.
this new iteration of the podcast. I haven't done that in a while. I had an idea to actually make a playlist, a shareable playlist with our
That'd be great.
Gomertrons, our Patreon subscribers
That'd
that
be
we're
great.
actually building together for songs to run to. So lots of
Mm,
things coming up. Um, we did change the name. So recently, most recent name was Runner's Block.
right.
And we focused on a block every week and how to overcome it, unless we were doing something else,
Yeah.
which happened a lot.
Yeah. But a lot of times that we did something else, we did that on our Patreon.
Right. Exactly.
Did we have a lot of episodes in our Runner's Block feed that were not our beat 1, 2, 3?
Yeah,
I guess
we
we'd
had
have
Blocktoberfest
Yeah,
and
yep.
One Words. And
Yep.
then
Oh, right.
we had basically a month of race and review. So we just ran the
Yeah.
Atlanta half marathon.
Mm-hmm.
We also pick big goals so that we have things to train toward. Um, and then on that race, and since we've been talking about how we want to focus more on overcoming the blocks than the blocks themselves. And then we decided, let's change the name. Let's be more hopeful. I think one thing that we've been talking about since then is if we want to be overcomers, how does that affect our Gomerhood?
Mm,
Like, are we
yep.
transitioning from being Gomers to being overcomers? So we want to talk about that in this episode. We want to talk, like I said, about how it's played out in our lives and our running so far. And of course, a ton of fun stuff along the way.
Sweet dude. I mean, are we going to the block? What are we going to?
Let's just keep going.
Keep going?
Just keep
Okay.
going. Let's make this a self-contained episode where we
Great.
talk overcoming, because this has
Okay.
really affected you, right? Adding the
Yeah,
word overcoming to runner's block has really affected you.
totally. So, I mean, identity, that's like a big word right now, right? Like in our
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a hyper individualistic culture, right?
Right.
Like we no longer identify oftentimes with like a group. We
Mm-hmm.
like have a million of our own ideas
Yeah.
of how we experience ourselves to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually something we talked about with Hack on the Clear Habits ep.
Oh, right. Yep.
Or Atomic Habits. He talked about identity, and Hack
Right.
talked about that.
Right.
And so like we even talked about that on our first one of our first few Runner's Block episodes is like, do you identify as a runner or not? Who
Yeah,
like
there was the like what I think our first block was I don't look like a runner, right?
right.
And
Yep.
so as happens on the podcast, we
Mm-hmm.
go a level deeper, right? That there
Mm-hmm.
there is like, do I look like a runner? But basically what we're saying is like, do I identify as a runner, right? Do I feel like a
Sure.
runner? Am I
Yeah.
able to tell people I'm a runner without being like constantly thinking, what are they thinking of me? Like him?
Yeah. Okay, because part of identity can be like with the imposter syndrome sort of thing. You
Yeah,
show up at a race.
right.
Actually, when you show up at a race, you're like, man, there are so many people of every possible shape, size,
Mm-hmm.
age,
Yeah.
ethnicity, race. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
gender, all
Mm-hmm.
over the place. So as soon as you go to a race, you're like, okay, I totally fit in here, and you kind of
Right.
find the corral or pod or
if
or
you
or
if you
pace.
walk far enough back from the starting
Yeah.
line, you can find your people. We have
Right.
experienced that.
100%.
Yeah.
Um, but like maybe if you go, I'm just thinking about like when you go into a running store sometimes,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
like those people are really fit and cool,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sort of like, hey dudes, like I need some new shoes,
Yeah. I know it.
and like how many miles do you run a week? And I'm like, like 5 to 10 maybe on a good week 10,
When
like
Steven bugs me enough, I run five to
right.
10.
Right, but I've done marathons and half marathons and
Yeah.
5Ks and 10Ks,
Yep.
and
I
but
mean, I
then
had this experience on my run this morning.
yep,
So I was doing a run, walk, run, which
yep,
we're going to have an episode about soon.
yep.
I went out for an hour. So it was like a timed run instead of a
Mm-hmm.
distance run, which we've
Love
been
it.
practicing since our past race. Uh, and I knew this, but I forgot that there is like a Flagstaff running club run every Thursday
Mm.
morning.
Ah,
So it's not professionals, but it's runners in Flagstaff, which is a
yeah,
difficult place to run because of the altitude.
right.
Flagstaff is a place where professionals do come to run because of
Mm-hmm.
that also. And so there's a pretty significant running culture in this town. So when the Flagstaff Running Club gets together and runs on Thursday mornings, they like pick different places to run. And so it was toward the end of my run. I was
Mm-hmm.
in the slouch phase,
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
like just wanting to be done.
Yeah.
Um, so I had gone out in a sweatshirt and my sweet joggers that you got me for my birthday. Thank you.
Oh right. Yeah. Buttery soft. I can't remember the brand.
Well,
Those
it's
are the
from
best though.
Peach. What is it?
Oh yeah,
What store
Peachtree
is it from?
Running. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. And so, but it had gotten warm, so I had it tied. I had my sweatshirt tied around my waist, like right under. Sorry, right under the tire. You know what I mean? So that it's like
Yeah. Yep.
sort of coming out over
Is that the
the
love
sweatshirt.
handles? Is that what
Yeah,
that's called?
definitely.
Only because you
Yeah,
said that and I have them.
yeah, they were definitely grippable. These they're a handle that would be hard not to get a good grip on if you were to try. And I just ran by this group getting ready to run, probably 30 or 40.
Okay.
Just specimens.
Sure.
Already, it
Yeah.
was already warm. It was unfair because they were dressed properly. And so like short shorts and
Right.
and sleeveless
Tank
tees,
tank tops and
sports bras. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and just like stretching before the run and just talking and having a good time. And I was like beat red.
Yeah.
Not only because I was hot and tired, but like I just felt like we are different categories of people right here. And so
Yeah, yeah.
I know what you mean, that it's the identity piece. Sometimes you think you're over that, and then
Right.
something like that happens, running store or running by the running
Yeah.
club, and you're like, gee whiz.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be so I have not yet tried to go because there's the Atlanta Running Club also.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
it does sound really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I could imagine myself like middle school style, cafeteria style,
Yeah.
pulling my car up to see
Mm-hmm.
like and have like a couple outfits in the back of the car, like to change into just in case, like
If the one you currently have on would not fit in.
right. So like, are we going fast cash or are we going like super chic or what? Which
And
obviously I don't have.
probably at some point you would see these people and just like not pull in, right? Just like
That
keep driving. There's
that's what I
always
mean.
that
So
option.
you're in the parking lot and you
Yeah.
watch and see the people that come out
Yeah.
and be like, nope, I don't fit in there. I don't know. Like it sounds so silly, but it's like some of
Yeah.
that middle school
Yeah.
self self consciousness, like kind of like just stays with you, right?
There's also like it's a new group. Am I good at making
Yep.
friends? Will they like me? I think
Yeah.
probably you're better at making new friends than I am as an extrovert, but I'm always just like, what am I going to say? And I,
Right.
I mean, I have to confess that part of it is like, what if I were to pull up next to these people in my car, get out? Would they be like, who's this guy?
Uh
You
huh.
know,
Who
like
do you think you are?
you can join
But the
us.
thing is, as I find, dude, as soon as you start talking to people, so this would be
Yep.
like the extrovert in me,
Mm-hmm.
like I, you can always find a nugget to relate about pretty quick.
You're right.
And
Definitely.
especially, I find if you lead, I'm not saying I'm great at this, but if you lead with humility and self
Mm-hmm.
deprecation a little bit,
Yep.
just season that in there. Like instead
Mm-hmm.
of posturing yourself as like, what up? I'm
Yep.
here, y'all, or
Yep.
something. I would never do that. But come and be like, oh man, like I would probably even be like, hey, I really feel weird here.
Am I
Like I
in the
don't feel
right place?
like,
Is this thing on?
is this thing on? Like, be like,
Because it probably wouldn't be like a John Hughes movie where you get out of your car, everybody goes silent and turns their head and looks at
yeah,
you at the same time, right? um,
totally.
I mean, just another tip is that people love talking about themselves, and so if you're a good
Oh
listener,
yeah,
you can
great.
fit in any group because people love other people that ask them good questions about themselves. So there's a
Yes.
way, but there's just like that initial, am I a runner? And so I think, oh, and so I think when it comes to this name change, it was like helpful to begin to identify ourselves as overcomers rather than people that look and focus just on the block. I don't know if you're feeling that
Yes.
same way.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess one thing just going back to that and that I think is a hallmark of our podcast
Mm-hmm.
is we tend to share. So this was this like legendary quote for me that I heard a year ago, which is when we come together and share our strengths, it
Mm-hmm.
breeds competition.
Yeah.
But when we come together and share our weaknesses, it breeds community.
Right.
And so like going into that situation and leading, like not posturing yourself but leading with like
Mm-hmm.
humility, weakness, like man, I'm glad I showed up here. You all look
Yeah.
so cool and like thanks
Mm-hmm.
for bringing me along. I think that's part of the block, talking about the block and talking about overcoming, is that we want to come together and share our weaknesses and build a community. I think is basically what we've been doing for
Definitely.
since the beginning.
Since the
Um,
beginning. And then we like labeled it as that, right?
yep,
Last year or so. I guess it was
yep,
last February we started Runner's Block. Um, and I mean, I loved it. It it was actually really incredible, kind of structurally
mm-hmm,
for us to plan
yeah.
out episodes. I think that it helped us stand out in the podcastosphere. Um,
That's it. Because, dude, I think and this is no knock, because if I actually, if I'm talking to professional musicians, I love doing this exact same thing.
right. Yep.
Honestly, like even when I've talked about runner's blocks, because that's if you're new to the podcast, I'm a professional musician.
Mm-hmm.
Steven is a professional speaker and minister
Mm-hmm.
and just small group leader, large group leader,
Mm-hmm.
brilliant dude. Um, and I think in those spheres as well, sharing your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities
100%.
builds community as opposed to competition
And trust. So like
and trust.
when I
Yes.
give a talk in front of people that I don't know,
Yep.
I get so much farther in that message with what you're saying, self-deprecating humor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not posturing and
That's it.
peacocking and
Yep.
showing my resume about things that I've done. Even though both of us are excellent in those areas, right? It still is something that people aren't used to. Like, oh, we're having a conversation where this person is being real and honest. And I think that that's the identity as a podcast and as individuals and runners in this sphere that we've really
Yep.
pressed into that. And that's why we identified as Gomers and titled the podcast Two Gomers blank from the
Yes.
beginning. Um,
Yes.
Gomer, by the way, do you think we need to define that?
Uh, sure. Whenever anybody asks me, I always say it's like a Midwestern average Joe.
Okay, great. I love that.
It is like my 3-word definition. People
It's a
usually get it.
Midwestern term that we used to use, and it meant like average person, right?
So, I mean, yep. There could be a schlubby aspect.
Schlubby is a good
There
word. Yep.
could be a lazy aspect.
Yeah.
No.
So I went back to this like Urban Dictionary
Oh yeah,
definition
yeah.
that we
Okay.
found the one time, and I paraphrased it a little bit. But
Okay.
it said this: a person who does something correctly but in an unconventional way.
Oh right.
An amateur who can be
Forgot about that.
clumsy or inelegant in an endeavor.
Amateur,
Yep.
100%. Yep.
That is for sure. We've never reached and probably never will reach the professional arena, right, of running.
Right.
Um,
Okay. I love
or
this.
expert,
Yeah, it
professional,
does things
because not many people get
in a
to the
different way.
pro level, but some people can be experts. I don't even think we're going to be that. I don't know.
Nope. I actually really like this way of kind of defining our identity as Gomers, like amateur,
Mm-hmm.
amateur,
Yep.
deriving from amor, tour, lover of, right?
Yep.
We love running. We love
Mm-hmm.
being amateurs. I don't know. Uh,
Well, an
okay, so
amateur suggests that you are doing something, right? That
yep,
like
definitely.
amateur has some sort of like action intrinsic in that word because
Mm,
it means that you're doing something even though you're not an expert. You're at least
yes.
a part of that doing.
Yep.
The crazy thing about this particular definition was the example they gave, which is that guy runs like a Gomer.
Incredible. Is there any way that the writer of that article on Urban Dictionary like listens to us?
Well, it was written in 2004, so they
Oh,
hadn't
okay.
gotten it from
Dang
our
it.
podcast. But I guess there's a chance maybe he's a big the night they saved Christmas fan and found us. There's a
Sure.
chance of that.
Is
Yeah,
it that guy from that did the
the review
plot synopsis of Night They Saved?
needed blastings. I don't know, but I
Yeah.
was just like, I can't believe that that's the example sentence they give in
Yeah.
italics. That
Here,
guy
can you
runs
pause?
like a Gomer.
Pause there. I need to let Indian. They're
Okay,
in the back. Hold on. Just keep
great.
recording.
I can hear those landscapers out there. Oh, everyone. I don't know what to talk about. Oh boy, it's been a long one. You have those long recordings. That's what's going on right now. Let's see. Anything I can talk about? We've been doing some workout in our house. Thank you to those who have given to our GoFundMe. Really appreciate it. We've made some progress this past week. And I was able to empty out my office. Here he comes back.
2342. Okay, so that's the definition they give.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Should I say that again?
Sure.
So that's the example sentence they give. That
Yeah.
guy runs like a Gomer.
Right.
Hilarious.
Pretty great.
Yep.
So, sorry, I'm out of breath. Dude.
Okay. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, just go. Sorry.
Okay.
Total Gomer, bro.
So we titled this episode From Gomer to Overcomer, mostly because I kind of like that sideways rhyme.
Yeah.
From Gomer to Overcomer doesn't quite work, but from
Over
Gomer to
Overcomer.
Overcomer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
uh, and I was thinking about it, dude. I don't think that we're moving from being Gomers because
Right.
I
Okay.
still feel like this definition applies. I still feel like we're average Joes. I still feel like we're
Totally.
unconventional in the way we're doing this, maybe compared to a professional runner. Clumsy and inelegant, that totally applies to us.
Clumsy, inelegant. Wow. I mean, the your leitmotif is the Wilhelm scream,
Yeah,
right? Like, I I have that saved like in this folder so that I can just drop it into any episode when I'm editing
right.
like as quickly as possible.
I have the air
Um,
horn to do that
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. So this was kind of like the identity epiphany that I wanted to get to,
Okay.
which is when I actually fell asleep editing RB32.
Okay.
Um,
The recovery
was
episode.
the recovery? Yes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
recovering. So like I didn't fall asleep editing it, but I was like I. It was one of those times where like you listen through an episode,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and then mark it, and then mark what you're gonna do with it. And I actually did that while I was laying down and like super tired, and I fell asleep, and so I was like half asleep and
Uh-huh.
half awake, listening to
Listening to the
us.
listening to us, listening to yourself talk.
Yeah, it was a surreal experience.
Huh.
But we talked about overcoming in that episode a little bit.
Really?
And dude, I had this like half awake, half asleep thing of like, we are overcomers.
Hmm.
Like as a noun, we overcome. As a verb,
Mm-hmm.
we are overcoming. Wait, what's the adjective?
Overcomely.
No, that'd be an
Overcomely.
adverb, right? Adverbs end in ly.
All right,
There's
that's
got to be
right.
an adjective version of overcome.
I mean, I guess you could say no, you can't really. Um,
Maybe not.
I mean, that would be something like determined, right? He is a
Sure.
determined person, or I don't
Overcoming,
know. Yeah,
maybe.
he's
He
an
is an over.
overcoming person. Yeah, that could
Yeah.
be. Yep, sure.
And I don't know, man. With runner's block, sometimes like just even if it was like subconsciously, I was like, I'm blocked
Right. Yep.
or something like that. Like I'm focusing on what I'm not good at and how I overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened in that half awake, half asleep moment that was
Yeah.
like, huh, I'm an overcomer.
Yeah.
And dude, for me, that has been like lighting me up inside. And I don't think you have to like we never are like we never there's never a moment where you arrive and then that's it.
Right.
Like the moment that you're the telos, the place where you're headed in the future, the end
Mm-hmm.
goal
Yeah.
is to be an overcomer. And so like if you build that into your identity as like I am a person that overcomes. I
Right.
am overcoming.
Currently. Yeah.
I am currently have in the past and will in the future
Yep.
overcome hard things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, that just so a that lit a fire in me in
Mm-hmm.
many areas
Yeah.
as part of my identity because it's already there. It's not even like projecting
Mm-hmm.
because we have done it.
Right.
But then you and I started talking about, but does that mean we're not Gomers anymore?
Right.
And then I don't exactly remember how this fleshed out. I'd love to think it was me. No, just kidding.
Probably.
No, no, no. But it was like that was very arrogant. That was a joke. It didn't play well. Sorry, but I
No, it
won't edit
did.
it out. Okay,
No, don't keep it in.
okay. Is that being an overcomer is part of the identity of a Gomer?
I love it, and you did say that, and I
Okay.
hadn't thought of it before, because sometimes we do focus on the the things that we were talking about before, like the ways that we fall short,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's how we identify. And I do think
Right.
that that is, um, I do think that's part of it, and probably a big part of it, where we embrace our amateurity, right?
Yes.
We
Yep.
embrace our rough edges. We embrace our inelegance and our clumsiness.
Mm.
Um, and that's, I think, endearing and fun to talk about and probably fun to listen to. I think adding the verb. So I was thinking also about verbs that we've had in our titles before, right? Like
Okay.
two Gomers run, two
Yep.
Gomers. So two Gomers run a half marathon, two Gomers run a marathon, two Gomers race a triathlon was
Yep.
the title of that season. Two
Yep.
Gomers lose 20 and 2020. Those feel like very kind of specific verbs. This
I
one
got.
is like
Oh yeah.
next level verb, I feel
Okay,
like.
we've got one more you forgot that I just remembered. Conquer.
Oh, right.
Remember that?
Yes. I totally forgot. And this just gave me goosebumps or chill bumps, which is the
Chill,
one that
chill,
goes out. Chill bumps.
chill bumps is the southern way of saying goosebumps to the
Right.
north. We're the gray duck to goose.
So I'm just surprised that it took us that long to remember that
Hmm.
we we really thrive with the verb. And it's not
I
just
think that.
about the title. It's just like what you're saying, like that lit a new fire under me.
Yeah.
And also like this verb overcoming feels big and feels like it opens up a lot for us to not only talk about but also
Yeah.
live into. It's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
I think the live into is right on. That's what is making me feel so alive about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is like because I mean I've mentioned a bunch of times on the podcast that anxiety and depression are like things that I struggle with.
Yep.
Depression, um, just weighs you down, worried about the past, anxiety, worried about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been learning a lot. I can't remember where all I started learning about this kind of like the idea of forming new neural pathways,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that our brain can actually change. Like, so you've got.
Physiologically.
Yes, like the way I think of it, and I'm sure I've heard somebody say it, but it's like a record, like the grooves in a
Mm-hmm.
record
Yep.
are like a neural pathway.
I've heard
And
about
so
it like ruts in a road.
yes, that's so good.
So
Totally.
you're driving over a same spot over and over again, and
Yep.
you're thinking the same way over and over again, and you're causing
Mhm.
actually, it's insane to me, physical
Yep. Yes.
wrinkles in your brain.
Mhm.
It's so cool.
Yep. It's like a highway or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
when you think a thought, I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird that you can actually change by thinking. Like
Really
we
weird.
talk a lot about holistic mind, body, soul, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so if you wake up and think,
Yeah.
I am an overcomer. I am
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm not going to be. And I know it sounds like positive thinking, but there is science to back up that this is real.
It's
So if
obviously
you,
real because of how much it's changed us in the past 2 weeks. Like
for sure.
just one kind of new way about thinking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tried it on my
Hmm.
run this morning.
Hmm.
Before I got super depressed when I passed by the
Right. Right.
Flagstaff Running
It's
Club.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. But
Right. But I was doing run, walk, run, and I was done with the walk, which is always depressing. I was doing 4 minutes running, then 1 minute walking. And I was coming to the end of the
yep.
walk, which is depressing because you're like, now I have to run again. And
Oh right.
instead of being depressed about it or sad about it, I was like, okay, every time that happens, I'm going to say, I'm going to overcome this next
Mm.
bit. And
Yep.
we talk about this a lot. It's a mental thing as much or
Yep.
more than it is a physical thing, running.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, it changed the run.
Mm. I
So
love that.
I don't think it's just us being power of positive thinking dudes. Trust us, nation. We are not those people. We're not
Well,
new
no.
agey. Here's the latest trend thing. Like this is a lifetime process we're in, trying to figure out how we live our lives better.
Yep. Well, it's scriptural too, like
Yep.
renewing of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's right there, like forming neural pathways.
Mm-hmm.
in the natural and in the spiritual like is not a new thing, but we're rediscovering it. Like, I mean, I even think about Jessica. I always go back to Jessica in her idea of smiling when she's
Mm-hmm.
running, and like
Yeah.
it's it actually is a physical act
Mm-hmm.
that actually changes the way her brain feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Or you can if you go to patreon.com/2gomers, subscribe to us.
Mm-hmm.
We did a whole episode on mantras.
Yep. You're right.
And
Huge. It's this really relates to the mantra stuff. You're just
that's that's what it
speaking to
is.
yourself life instead of death.
Exactly. And so like I do hard things,
Yep.
or take that hill was a huge one for me during the
Mm-hmm.
half marathon training.
Yep.
And what that is actually doing is it is over time, like I love that road or path analogy. So like
Yeah.
behind me I haven't hung it yet still, but I found this beautiful picture.
Someday he will
um
overcome not hanging up that picture and hang
Someday.
it up.
Yeah, well, okay, okay. That's actually another thing that I want to talk about, what Gomers are.
Uh-huh.
And I just circled it, and I'll tease that out later if we remember.
Okay.
Um, but uh, it's
The
this.
picture
I
is of a
found.
path, right? I'm
Yeah,
trying
so
to see
it's
it.
like the picture of like a nature trail with like
Mm-hmm.
almost like Blue Ridge Mountains or something in the background,
Okay.
like not huge mountains, but it's a pathway
Mm.
through like a rolling hill.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
And that pathway is there because people have hiked it and run it
Yeah.
for a long time.
Right.
And so like though that is what your brain looks like, is all these little neural pathways, all these things that you've thought and
Mm-hmm.
done a million times. And so
Right.
just because one is like that doesn't mean it needs to stay like that. And
Right.
just because one that is not there has never has doesn't have footsteps on it doesn't mean it can't change. So by me saying to myself, when you wake up, I mean obviously I first wake up and it's usually a psalm. Like I've really been trying to set some new neural pathways. So like
Yeah.
instead of waking up with dread about the day that I have coming up or all this
Anxiety
stuff.
or
Yeah,
depression. Yeah. Like and those
totally.
things are real. We know that, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, but I see what you're saying about like just waking up differently and noticing that I usually go to dread, and I'm there with you,
Yep. Yeah.
and making decisions so that I don't. Huge.
Wake up, be like, I'm an overcomer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Or
I do.
just think about some of the other things of your identity. I'm beloved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a son. I'm
Yep.
a husband. I'm a father.
I'm enough.
I am enough. Holy
Mm-hmm.
smokes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big
Already
one for me.
approved of and loved is
Yep.
is like by God. That's like for me number one.
Yep.
The overcomer thing though, really, dude, I'm like not like, maybe I sound crazy, but it's been 2 weeks that we've been like wrestling or chatting about this.
Yeah.
And it's really special and meaningful to me, and I've been thinking about it every morning.
There was something immediate that happened when we started talking about it on the race when we first said the word. And what if we
Hmm.
put that into the title of our podcast and kind of re refocused or redirected our podcast around that
Yeah.
instead? That was like felt right. And
Yep.
then, like you're saying, the week since then, settling in. It's not. I want to give us the benefit of the doubt that we weren't like creating neural pathways where we're like we suck and we're blocked and all that. We always
Right.
went to the conquering and the overcoming.
Yep.
But um I don't know what it is, dude. Adding the word, and not only adding the word but seeing the podcast all running and our lives in that kind of through that lens
Yeah.
has been pretty terrific.
Yeah. And I think maybe part of what feels like it's like a lasting sort of thing is that it's always been, or not always, but it has been there for actually a long time.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's not like we're making it up and be like, wow, this has never been here. This
Mm-hmm.
is at the core of what a Gomer is.
Right.
Um, is and that then like living into that,
Yep.
knowing that it's already been going on,
Yeah.
made it feel more immediately exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so
Definitely. It's like
yeah,
I
man.
hate to bring up War of the Worlds again. I just talked about it a lot this in the
Mm,
trains episode, but one
yep.
of the cool things about the Tom Cruise movie is that the spaceships have always been there for millions of years
Mm,
under like
yeah.
in the earth, and then they
Sure.
just like come up and destroy everything. It's just like that, nation.
It's
With
just
this
like that,
word, it's always
except the
been there.
opposite. We actually talked about that in literally episode 1 or 2 of Runner's Block, like the dormant,
Yeah,
latent potential that lives within you.
right.
It's the opposite and the same as War of the Worlds.
Yeah, totally.
Like
There's a
we are
dormant,
overcomers. We do hard things.
yeah,
Dormant.
there's a dormant
Yeah.
thing that's always been there, and you
Mm-hmm.
tap into it, and you can cause some big change.
Right.
You can shoot people and make them go into dust around Tom Cruise and get his jacket all dirty. Okay,
Right.
there's just this other thing that I was thinking about, which is, and I lost it. You know, when you're doing a podcast, I don't know if you know
Yeah.
this,
Oh yeah.
nation, but you have a thought. Why don't we talk about the thing that you just circled that you wanted to make sure to
Oh.
get back to?
Okay. And then maybe that'll jog.
Yes.
Jog.
Yee!
Oh, we're always jogging our memories.
Wow.
This is something I want to be,
Okay.
have been, but I'm not, most certainly not perfect at. But
Okay.
and you laughed at me because I have it on my wall, and it was literally covering up something I didn't finish, although it wasn't something I started, which
Okay.
is I want to be I want to be a finisher.
Got it.
I want to be a finisher, and I want to finish what I start.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, there have been people that know I go to Passion City Church. Our pastor Louis has given some great words on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just 2 weeks ago was a neural pathway, just randomly,
Yeah.
uh, seemingly randomly, about this that has been lighting me up.
Okay.
But a lot of times we're like, what's next? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the next thing, God, you're gonna do in my life?
Yeah.
And or what's the next thing I'm gonna figure out or whatever. And this one dropped like a bomb in my mind, which is like, you haven't finished what I already asked you to do.
Uh-oh.
Like, how many things have you not done that I've asked you to do? You're asking me for a new thing,
Yeah.
and you haven't finished what I asked you to do.
Uh-oh. This is
Um,
feeling very familiar to me. Yeah, right. I've been that in that place a lot of times in my life.
okay.
Um, so
So,
like, I mean, I think there's physical things that you're talking about, right? Like the picture
mhm.
that hasn't been hung.
Yup. I mean, case in point, bro. Totally.
I'm looking at it right now. Posters on your floor and pictures on your floor.
Hey, it's better than it was a couple months ago.
100%. And I have,
Yep.
I mean, you don't want to see anything outside my office in our house right now. But
Right.
there's also like the deeper spiritual things, right? Like I needed to do work. I needed and I need to do some work on some stuff that's in me, or I have
Mhm.
callings on my life that I haven't lived out yet. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, I hate to bring it. I don't want to like overplace running over this,
Mm.
but it does seem like running is one of these things in my life that I feel like that's kind of omnipresent,
Hmm.
and it's a larger, I'll just say, I do feel like it's a larger call on me to be physically healthy.
Yeah.
And when we were focusing just on the block, it felt heavier than it needed to.
Hmm.
Where when we went to
That's
this
good. Yeah.
overcoming thing, I was like, actually, I forgot. It's fun and it's freeing and it's healthy and it's
Yeah.
great. And I'm wondering if there are listeners right now that have felt that same way, that not because of our podcast, but just in their lives, like running is just this boulder on my shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Or this
Yep.
weight around my neck. And you also need to be invited into this like overcoming thing,
Yeah.
that it's a positive thing to run. It's a positive thing to be healthy.
Yeah.
And it's a positive thing to identify yourself in those ways.
I love it, dude. You're a overcomer.
Mm-hmm.
You're a finisher. I mean, you know what I did, dude?
Hmm.
I love new things.
Yeah, I know it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love new books.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I've started doing is I've started finishing all the books I started.
Music to my ears.
So like, because I'm like 3/4 of the way through Last Supper on the Moon by Levi Lusko,
Right.
and I'm like, want to start this other book, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, I'm gonna finish that book, or I'm
Books
gonna
is
finish
a great
those
example
reads.
of this. Yeah.
Right?
You're
How many
you're
books have you
really hitting
started?
on
And
something that I think a
okay,
lot of people probably feel, which is like books take a long time and they took a long time to do, and then you think, oh, but I like that book on my shelf or that book that I see
mm,
or hear about, and so tons of books go unfinished.
sure.
Finishing books is really great.
Finish that. Finish that book. Maybe somebody needs
Finish
to
it.
hear that. Finish that book.
Yeah. Move that bus. Remember
Move.
that? Finish
Yeah,
that
totally,
book. Not as
totally.
exciting, but there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. The thing that I was gonna say was triggered during yours, which is maybe there are people out there that want to join us on this new overcoming
I
attitude.
love that. What? Yeah, maybe
Um,
pick something that you want to overcome,
yep,
and that you want to finish. And so, yeah, I'm gonna finish books, and I'm gonna run. Let's see. I've got my birthday run coming up. My
right?
birthday actually is my. When does this come out? Friday? A week from
No,
tomorrow?
yeah, a week. This comes out on your birthday, bro.
Yes. Okay.
So
So
you are running a kind
I'm
of
running right
your
now.
typical birthday race, right? Your own
Yep.
personal birthday race.
Yep. So if you're listening to this and you're near the Chattahoochee River,
Mm-hmm.
give me a give me a shout out.
Look outside your front door right now. Anthony could be running by, and that's a faux 10K you do on your birthday,
The Unkar Plod,
right? A quarter marathon.
1/4 portion.
6.55 in a real Anthony move,
Mm,
running a quarter of a marathon. I love it.
yep.
Um, so I agree. If there are people listening right now that are excited to join us on this new journey of overcoming, we're gonna probably choose a new big goal coming up in the next month or so.
Hmm.
But also there might just be the overcoming might be just starting to run again. And
Yeah.
we want to tell you we know that it's hard, we know that it's a block, but um do it tomorrow morning. Get up a little bit early, run a mile, run 2, run 3. Don't worry if you have to walk. Let's
Totally.
overcome together. I'm so excited about it.
I'll probably walk more than half of that Unkar Plod. I mean, just so we're
For sure.
run, walk, run, baby. And we'll talk about that on the Run Walk episode.
Yep, coming up soon. We're going to be using some of our episodes to focus on key overcomers that we've identified. Keystone
Yeah.
practices that have helped us overcome a lot of blocks, and that run, walk, run definitely is one.
Baby step, finish that book. What about Bob? Baby steps.
Finish that book, Baby Steps,
Yeah, right.
by Richard Dreyfuss. I can't remember his
Leo
name.
Marvin.
Leo Marvin. That's it. Baby Steps.
Yep.
Man, that would be a fun book to just have on your shelf, like a fake book cover. Baby Steps.
Man, you're so like. I love that scene when he's like, "There's a groundbreaking new book," and it's just a shelf of
A shelf
that
of
book.
his book. A pretty good joke.
Yep.
Love that. Okay.
So good.
We can be Gomers. We can be overcomers both at once. We're really excited about this new journey.
A Gomer is an overcomer.
Yes. They can coexist.
Yep. No. They don't. No. That's the thing. Is
Oh,
it's part of it. It's
you're
not a
right.
coexist.
No, that's right. It's not two separate entities coexisting. It's
we're
part of the identity.
in the recipe of a Gomer, like guacamole.
I love it.
It's got it. The recipe has that in it. Overcoming.
I love that, dude. All right. Well, if you have thoughts, Gomer Nation, we are really curious about hearing those thoughts. Hold on just a second. I don't know. Can you edit there?
Sure.
All right, Gomer Nation, if you have thoughts about any of this, if you have things that you want to overcome and let us know about, there's a lot of ways to contact us. All of our socials and our Gmail are at 2Gomers, You can also find all those at bit.ly/runnersblock, along with a little box there that you can let us know what your runner's block is. We might address it on a future episode of the show. You can call us on the Gomer phone. That number is
608 622 7669, dudes. That's 608 NBA Pony.
subscribe to us and leave us feedback on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on right now. And go ahead and subscribe and leave us feedback on all the other podcast apps as well if you want to do that. If you're
Sweet.
new to Overcoming Runner's Block and you want a quick Two Gomers primer, you can check us out on our 10th anniversary episodes from September to November 2018 on this feed. That's a great place to start. Thanks to Davis for our music, Jason and Eric for our graphics, Adam for our website, Annie for our social media, and thanks to our almost 200 Gomertrons. Those are our Patreon subscribers who get access to our second podcast, The Bonus Disc. If you subscribe to The Bonus Disc, you not only show your support for us, keep the lights on at Gomer Studios East and West, you take full advantage of Gomer Fridays. Overcoming Runner's Block drops every other week, but on the off weeks is a guaranteed episode of Perfect Movie, and that drops on our Patreon feed. Subscribe now for up to 4 bonus episodes each month. That's patreon.com/2gomers.
Great, man. Well, thanks for chatting through this. I'm looking forward to our Run, Walk, Run chat next week or 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, that'll be really good. We're going to focus, like we said, on keystone practices that help us overcome. That's going to be really exciting.
Love it.
All right, dude. Great app.
Super fun, man. And remember, everybody, if we can do this, if we can overcome, you can do this.
And happy running. Ooh, great.
All right, let's stop that. Oh, look, can we clap?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a good idea. Then you can line it up beginning and end.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
All right, let's stop that. 1, 2, 3, stop. I thought it would be cool to check in. You know what I mean? I like it even better when we do it in the middle, but I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop this. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye.
If we can do it, you can do it. Bye-bye.